Welcome, everybody, to another edition of E.W. Jackson for America. Of course, I'm your host, Bishop E.W. Jackson. Great to be with you again today. Since it is Friday, once again, boy, these Fridays roll around quickly, don't they? I want to remind you that I will be preaching and teaching at the Called Church, 943 Canal Drive in Chesapeake, Virginia. So if you're anywhere in the area, come on by. Oh, oops, wait a minute. Let me give this professor. Oh, man. Except this weekend, we may not be there because, of course, we're expecting a big snow and ice storm. And if the roads are icy on Sunday morning, I am going to cancel church. Now, I was speaking to a group of prayer warriors that I meet with every day. And I told them, I said, right now, there's probably about an 80% chance. In fact, while we were talking, I had the news on in the background. Before we started prayer, I was sort of watching the weather unfold and watching the reports, updates about what was being expected. We happen to live in the warmest part of Virginia because the Gulf Stream warms things up where we are. And so, a lot of Virginia can be very, very cold and very snowy and very icy, but we don't get any of that. In fact, I'd say on average, we get snow in my area about every 3-4 years, maybe. And when we get it, it tends to be a dusting, an inch, an inch, 2 inches, and tends to be gone the next day. So really, we live in an area where we get virtually no snow. Thank God, because I lived in Massachusetts for over 25 years and I got more than my fair share. So I've had enough snow. I don't know that we'll even be there on Sunday. I would say, again, there's an 80% chance that we won't be. I told my congregation, some of my congregational members, that I would not make the call until Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon, when we're a little bit closer to knowing exactly what things are going to look like on Sunday morning, and we'll send out an alert to everybody by email and text to tell people whether we're going to have church services. So with that being said, I don't know about this coming Sunday, but pretty much every other Sunday we will be there. When I lived in Massachusetts, I had a reputation among my congregants for never canceling church unless there was an emergency declared by the governor. If the governor declared an emergency, then we would cancel church. If there was no emergency declared, folks, I was a legend for refusing to cancel church. Well, in Massachusetts, where 6 inches of snow is pretty much nothing. People navigate through that all the time because it happens so frequently. I was there one year, we had 104 inches of snow. 104 inches of snow. Snow on the ground all the time. And I was there during the blizzard of 78. They had 28 inches of snow. I came back, the snow was piled so high that when they pushed it aside, it created tunnels in the streets. I am not exaggerating. Literally, the snow pushed so high that it actually joined on each side of the street. And so some streets actually became a tunnel of snow. That's how much snow there was. So I've had my fair share, not looking for any more, but it looks like this weekend we're going to get some. And even worse than the snow, frankly, is the ice. So if that happens, please don't come to our church because we will not be there. I don't want people going out trying to navigate ice. I've driven through ice storms, folks. It is one of the most treacherous things you can ever do because you have virtually no control over that car. We had one ice storm here. In fact, I think it's the last one we've had, but this was about 20 years ago. And I don't know exactly where I was when the thing hit but I do remember it took me 2 hours to get home when I was about 5 miles away. 5 miles from home. It took me 2 hours to get home. thank God I keep plenty of gas in my car. I never let my gas tank go too low for that reason. I don't ever want to be in an emergency situation where I need gas. I've got to really travel. In a situation like that where I've got to have plenty of gas because, it's taking me longer than expected. Maybe there's some kind of traffic jam or something happens, some accident, and you're stuck out on the road in cold, icy weather for 2 hours, and you got less than a quarter of a tank in your car, and you run out of gas. You got a problem. So, anyway, I know you didn't ask for all that, but just to tell you, that's the way I roll. That's the way I do it. I try to keep my tank as close to full. My tank gets down to half, I fill it up. And on that particular day, it was good that I had a full tank of gas because at 2 hours, we were moving along. It felt like inch by inch because the roads were icy, and every time you move the car, you could feel the car slipping. So we don't put anybody through that. But at any rate, 943 Canal Drive. I'm there most Sundays. If I'm not there this Sunday, and you probably wouldn't be either, if the weather proves to be what they predicted it to be, then I'm there pretty much every other Sunday. I'm at my church probably about 90% of the time. About 90% of the time. I mean, all things considered, I am rarely out. But I always tell people, but check, because you may be coming specifically to meet me or to hear me speak, and then get there and find out I'm away that Sunday. So, it's always a good idea to call us. The church number 757-485-7777. Very easy to remember, 757-485-7777. And if you're planning to come to our church, is Bishop Jackson going to be there, just call up. If nobody answers, just leave a message and we'll get back to you. But at any rate, so I wanted to say that. Of course, this is Friday. This is Financial Friday, and I always emphasize what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to accomplish. We've got really 3 big projects we're going to be doing this year. One is the King Douglas Forum. That is the series of meetings I'm going to have around the country, not just this year, but on an ongoing basis, in the inner cities of our country, to have a Charlie Kirk type debate about how you can hold one set of values and vote for people who are completely opposed to those values. I want to discuss that. I want to discuss how you can support abortion when you claim to be against racism, when the whole abortion industry was built on racism. Margaret Sanger was a consummate racist, a eugenicist, who really thought that certain people did not deserve to live, did not deserve to be born. And among those were black people. Now, of course, she believed that anybody, it didn't matter what the color of your skin was if you were not quite up to it. She assumed that about all black people pretty much. But even if you were an American of European ancestry, or white as they like to put it, if you were maybe had birth defects, or you came from a poor family, or what, you shouldn't be born either. Abortion, folks, is nothing but a euphemized system of eugenics. That's really what it is. Abortion grew out of the eugenics movement. So did birth control. Well, we can't kill them. We can't sterilize them. The PR is terrible. So what can we do? Well, let's convince them that killing their unborn baby in the womb is a good thing. And let's convince them that taking a drug that prevents them from getting pregnant is a good thing. That's how we'll deal with it, because sterilization and eugenics and all that's bad PR. Let's call it Planned Parenthood, when what it really is planned deathhood. Now, so 943 Canal Drive, Chesapeake, Virginia. I'm there every Sunday, almost always. 11 a.m. for worship service, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We start live streaming at about 11:15. But if you're in the area, join us. If you want to go to a church where the word of God is preached without apology, with as great accuracy as I can. I am a preacher and a teacher. I am anointed to do both. I'm teaching a series right now, a brief series right now called Giving Your All. And I'm talking about being willing to surrender everything to God. Of course, I'm including finances in that, and that's probably the central message here for my congregation, to teach us that we need, Christians ought to be extraordinary givers. We really should be. So we're studying that, what the scripture says about that. And I started with the widow with two mites. Then I talked about David when he went to Araunah and wanted to get his threshing floor as a place to offer up sacrifice under a prophetic command by God. And Araunah offered to give it to him. Just here, you take it. You know, David said, no, I will buy it from you for a price, because I will not offer to God that which costs me nothing. And I talked about the implications of that in our Christian walk. You know, I'm committed to raising up disciples. Do you realize, folks, that the word Christian is only mentioned by a Christian in the Bible one time, and that's the Apostle Peter. Only one time. Now, the Antiochans referred to us as Christians, and I believe it was Felix who said to Paul, you almost persuade me to become a Christian, but he wasn't a Christian. The only Christian who used that word term, and he only used it once, was Peter. You know what the word that is used to refer to the followers of Jesus Christ? Disciples. 261 times, I believe, the word disciple is used to describe the followers of Jesus Christ. Only one time the word Christian is used. You know, Christian, and I'm not knocking using Christian because I use it, but you know, it can mean almost anything. And a lot of people who use the term, they think they're Christians and they're not. I mean, I hear it all the time. There's some people, I've said Tucker Carlson's not a Christian in my view. They think he thinks he is, but he's not. You say, well, how can you say that? Who do you think? Well, Jesus said, by their fruit shall you know them. And if you are trafficking in anti-Semitism, you're not a Christian. You don't have a true relationship with Jesus Christ, the Jewish Messiah. He's the Messiah for all mankind, but he came to us as a Jew. Now, for all those Jew haters, just deal with it, because it's the truth. And Jerusalem is the place where God chose to put his name there and gave to the Jewish people. Now, that's just the way it is. And the New Jerusalem is going to come down. It's going to sit right where the old Jerusalem is. The New Jerusalem that is being built in heaven. Maybe it's built already. I don't know. But the New Jerusalem that is built in heaven, the heavenly city, is going to come down and sit right on top of the Jerusalem that we have right now. It's the eternal city. So pray for the peace of Jerusalem. They shall prosper that love thee. But at any rate, I didn't mean to get off into all of that. But my point is, we need to teach people to be disciples of Jesus Christ. My pastor used to say, you know, they go to church and a preacher preaches sermonettes. They go out on the steps of the church and smoke cigarettes and then go live as Christianettes. They hear They hear sermonettes, smoking cigarettes, and living as Christianettes. You know, so. No, we are trying to raise up true disciples of the Lord Jesus Christ. And we'd love to have you be a part of it. You are welcome to come and join. Are we a perfect church? No, because there are people there. But I tell you what, we're a church that's serious about living for God. We're not playing games. Loving God, loving people. We're not a church that's out to condemn everybody, but we're a church that's out to proclaim to everybody there is one standard that God has given, and that is his word. And if you don't adhere to that, you are wrong, period. And the standard is the same for me and everybody else. And when we fall short of the standard, we are wrong, God is right. Okay. Now, want you to realize we just did this Martin Luther King Leadership Breakfast. Martin Luther King Leadership Breakfast is now dedicated to supporting our school, the Maximum Potential Christian Academy. We got a wonderful school going, folks. So, Lord, pray for us because these schools are expensive. They cost money. The school is a partnership between Stan and our church. The expenses for the school are paid by Stan, frankly, because the church really can't handle the expense. So Stan is paying for the school. So the school is really a ministry of Stan, but it's in combination with the church because the church provides a lot of logistical support and so forth. And at some point, maybe we'll be in a position to provide financial support as well. It costs us $7,000 a year to educate a student. And we have 3 trimesters. We have a spring, a fall, and a summer trimester. We are in business all year round because we believe these students need it. Okay? $7,000 to educate a student. So any portion of that, you gave $70 a week or whatever. In what? How many weeks is that? Well, 10 weeks would be $700. So it would take another. Whatever. My math is not coming together right now. But you get my point. You can break that down however you want. You can pay for a semester. You can pay for an entire year's tuition. You sign up to make a monthly contribution to our school. You just go to thecall.org. And forgive me, you'll have to designate somewhere that you are making this contribution for the school because we have not yet updated the church website to reflect that. And we got a lot of work to do, folks. We got more work to do than we have people to do it. But we're going to continue to, believe me, we're constantly working to get it right. So, and we don't have a donation page yet on our school website, but you can check out the school website, mpcacademy.net. mpcacademy.net. That's Maximum Potential Christian Academy.net. But we use the initials to shorten the website, the web address, mpcacademy.net. Check it out. Check out the school. And believe me, we're working on making some improvements to the website and so forth because we just had some technical problems with it not too long ago. But we seem to have gotten those resolved. But we really want to get the website here again, and of course that costs money too, right? In addition to paying the teachers and paying for all the materials that we use in the school and paying for supplies and paying for food because we do feed our children. We feed our children. We have a breakfast available to our children when they show up to school for those children who want breakfast. So it's a wonderful thing. The budget for the school is about $190,000 a year, which, I mean, you think about it, that's really fairly inexpensive for a school K through 6, and we want to get to K through 12. So anyway, I wanted to let you know you can help us with that. You can go to Stan, by the way. I'm pretty sure Stan has a designation for the MPC Academy. Let me just double check that while we're talking here. Forgive me, folks, but this is important. This is important stuff. Man. Wow. Okay. I'm just looking to make sure that, yep, Maximum Potential Christian Academy is on the Stan website. So you can go to standamerica.us and give there too. Okay? If you're more comfortable with that, go to Maximum Potential, just click on Maximum Potential Christian Academy and choose whatever donation you want to give. You can make it a one-time donation or you can make it a monthly donation. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of the cost. Now look, folks, there's several ways to give. So I said, because Stan is paying for the Maximum Potential Christian Academy, but there's several ways we're asking people to give. Obviously, you can become a monthly Patriot Partner donor. You can become an annual, or for that matter, any way you want to do it. but we do take annual gifts, and there's some people who like to give once a year. And we ask people to give a minimum once a year if you can handle this, of $500. It used to be $300, but we're asking for $500 now because, of course, the expenses of everything have gone up. So $500 a year, but of course, whatever you can give. If it's only 50, if it's only 100, if it's only whatever it is, believe me, we'll be grateful for it because we value every nickel that every penny for that matter, that our donors give to us, and we seek to be good stewards over what you give us too. Okay, so that's one way. But we are also looking for several other kinds of donors. I'm looking for estate donors, donors who will stand in their will and give part of their estate when they go to heaven, give part of their estate to the work of Stand. I'm believing God for that. Stand is in my will. My wife and I, our wills include Stand in them because, of course, and Stand in the church, because why would we not want to leave part of whatever God has given us to support the ministries that God has assigned to us? I mean, that wouldn't make sense. So obviously we have to do it, and I can't ask you to do it. And then, well, are you doing it? Oh, well, no, we don't do it. Yeah. Of course we are. We're doing it. You know, my pastor used to say, you can't lead where you won't go. You can't teach what you don't know, and you can't reap what you won't sow. So we believe in being an example, not just asking other people to do it. So that's one way. A friend of mine told me that their organization was just limping along, and then one of their donors put them in their will, passed away, and left a ton of money. He said that we never had to look back. I mean, it put us on the map. And really, the donor was not out anything because they had all their money while they were living, and then once they passed on, they left a big chunk of it to us to further our ministry, and it was a great blessing to us. So that's one way, estate planning donors. And then I'm looking for some endowment donors. You know, the largest donation I've ever gotten has been about $190,000. That's the largest single donation. I'm believing God to raise up somebody who's going to give us $1 million. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll take $250,000, $500,000, whatever people are willing to give. But I'm believing God to raise up somebody who's going to give us $1 million or $2 million or $5 million or $10 million. I mean, Jeff Bezos gave Van Jones $100 million. Have you seen any results from that? And you won't, because he wouldn't know what to do with it. I mean, he doesn't have the sense God gave him that. The man's a communist. He's never renounced those sentiments. That's why he had to leave the Obama administration, because he was outed. They found out that he was a communist. I mean, so, but, you know, poor Jeff Bezos, just, you know, I tell you, it's amazing. People can be so smart. He is tremendously smart at selling and delivering goods. But in terms of the wisdom of life, forget it. Just as lost as a duck in a hailstorm. But I'm believing God to raise up some Christians and some people with some godly wisdom and vision for this nation who see the value of the work we're doing and will say, you know what, I'm going to make sure that you never lack for funding, that you can always do the things you want to do. Because the King Douglas Forum, going around and creating these forums for debating these issues in the inner city, the Family Restoration Institute, we've developed curriculum. It's still a work in progress, but we've developed curriculum now that we're using. I'm teaching a class every week at our school. We're making this curriculum available to churches and schools. How do you rebuild the family in America? I really believe you have to do it almost one child at a time. You've got to give each child a vision for what family ought to be as opposed to what they're experiencing, because as you know, out of wedlock births, divorces, domestic violence and problems, I mean, the family has been decimated in America. And we've got to do something to rebuild that. As we prepare to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our country, my goodness, how can we do that with full celebratory spirit when the family is broken down? Malachi chapter 3 says, in the last days, God will send forth Elijah the prophet, who will turn the hearts of fathers to their children, the hearts of children to their fathers, unless God says, unless I come and smite the earth with a curse. Well, the curse is running rampant right now because we know families are devastated. They're a mess. And that's why you got all this violence in the inner cities. Now, we're locking a lot of these people up, and I'm going to get to that in a couple minutes. But, you know, it is not racism and poverty that is driving crime. It is the breakdown of the family that is driving crime. And the lack of a father in the home to instill the values that allow young men and women to grow up with a sense of personal responsibility, respect for others, respect for human life, and a sense of vision for their own lives and what their lives ought to be, as opposed to learning from the streets and from some drug dealer, from some gangbanger. This is what it means to be a man. This is what it means to be a woman. I mean, no wonder the streets are in chaos. You know, we've been chronicling America's Forgotten Children. That's one of our websites. You can go to americasforgottenchildren.com. There's no apostrophe in the Americas, but it's just like it sounds, americasforgottenchildren.com. We are up to 586 murdered children since the Defund the Police movement began after the death of George Floyd. 586 innocent children murdered. And the mainstream media won't even pay any attention to it. We're doing something about it. And the Family Restoration Institute is part of that. Stand With Law Enforcement is part of that. All these programs that we're doing cost money, folks. And so we're believing God for endowment donors as well, who will give us those large donations to allow us to do this work without, you know, pinching pennies or basically coming up against a brick wall saying, well, we can't go any further. We simply don't have the resources to go any further. We had an outstanding meeting in Chicago about 3 years ago, but we weren't able to replicate it. What we needed to do was do Chicago, then do other cities, and then go back to Chicago. But all of that costs resources, folks. It costs resources. So again, I know you're listening to me thinking, Bishop, maybe if I could write you $1 million check, I would, but I don't have that kind of money. Well, you do what you can if it's not but $5 a month. But you can pray for us that God will raise up the person and persons who will give us the funding that we need to do what God has called us to do. Okay? All right. Well, I think I've said enough about that. Go to standamerica.us, standamerica.us, if you want to learn more about the work of Stand. I say we want three things from you: prayer, volunteering, and giving. Prayer for us and for our country. Volunteering, you can be a Stand ambassador. You can start a chapter in your local community. And giving. You can give as little as $5 a month to become a Patriot Partner, or you can give whatever you are led to give, less or more. I say our monthly donors range all the way from $5 a month to $2,000 a month. And believe me, every dime of it is deeply appreciated. Okay, with that out of the way, let me get to the fact that today is the March for Life. Now, we are a pro-life organization, okay? And we are pro-life absolutists. Now, I realize that's not in keeping with some in the pro-life movement, but see, I really believe that the goal must be a pro-life culture in America. And in order to create a pro-life culture in America, we are going to have a constitutional amendment that recognizes life and personhood at conception. There's no other way to get there, folks. Because that would outlaw all abortions other than those that truly must be performed to save the life of the mother, as in, for example, ectopic pregnancies and that kind of thing. Not to save the inconvenience of bearing a child to the mother, but to actually save the physical life of the mother. Now, I'm telling you, that's the only exception I support. You say, but wait a minute, what about rape? Well, the baby didn't do anything wrong. Why kill the baby? Well, what about incest? Well, the baby didn't do anything wrong. Why kill the baby? if you truly believe that light begins at conception, as I do, and I can prove that to you very simply with one simple question. Are you all ready? One simple question. When did you become you? When did you become you? Well, you and I know that the logical, the factual, the scientific, and the spiritual answer to that question is you became you at the moment of conception. Because the entire genetic code that produced who you are was there from the moment of conception. It was you at the earliest stage of development. I have a new grandson, born on January 10th. I met him on my birthday. My birthday is January 13th. You can wish me a happy belated birthday. Thanks. On January 13th, I had the greatest birthday gift I've ever been given. My grandson was brought through the door, and I met him for the first time at 3 days old. Now, my grandson can't talk. He cannot walk. As far as I know, he cannot, he cannot think. He is not self-conscious yet, as far as I know. But Jalen Bruce Simmons is as much Jalen Bruce Simmons at 1 day old as he will be at 1 year old, and 10 years old, and 20 years old, and 30 years old, and 50 years old, and 70 years old, and 80 years old, and 90 years old, and 100 years old if he lives that long. But he will simply be at different stages of his human development. So by the time Jalen is 5, he'll be walking, talking. He'll be able to do some things for himself. He can't do any of that now, but it's still Jalen. Well, then you ratchet that back, okay? You walk that back. You say, well, then when did it become you? Because if it's you at birth, but you can't talk, you can't walk, well, at some point you can. Well, is it you when you can walk, talk, eat, read? Well, is it you then at maybe 8 months? Because maybe you're capable at that point of living outside the mother's womb if you have to. What makes that different? Because when you're first born, you're still connected to the umbilical cord that has to be cut. So are you not you until the umbilical cord is actually cut? Well, what about 7 months? What about 6 months? What about 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, 2 months? It's always you. It will always be you. It was always you. From the moment of conception, it was you. And to kill that baby is to kill a person. And folks, I've said this on many an occasion. I don't know whether you've heard me say it or not. But when these people, these abortionists, these unrepentant abortionists, these unrepentant women who have killed their own progeny, these unrepentant men who have supported or pressured women to kill their unborn baby, all of these officials of Planned Parenthood, all the people who give to that monstrous, abominable organization, when they stand before God unrepentant of having stolen the lives of these children for whom God had a plan, they're going to be shocked to find out that not one of those children is actually dead. They're going to all be there to bear witness. And you know what they're going to be saying to all those people? Why did you kill me? Why did you kill me? What did I do to deserve that? Why did you hate me? Why did you not love me? And the unrepentant people who have never admitted their wrongdoing and asked God to forgive them and receive Jesus Christ and his sacrifice for their sins are going to say, I didn't know. I didn't know that I was killing a person. And you know what some of them are going to say? Some of them are going to say, how could you not know? Bishop Jackson was saying, as were thousands of others, millions of others were saying, that it was me from the moment of conception. How could you not know? There's nothing to be said. But depart from me, you workers of iniquity, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. I never knew you. They didn't know those unborn babies, and God didn't know them. I tell you, that is going to be a scene. But here's the encouraging thing about this. For all you women who have had miscarriages, for all you women who have had abortions but repented of it and realized it was wrong, your baby is waiting for you. Your baby is waiting for you. You're going to have a great reunion with your child. And there's not going to be any anger. There's not going to be any recriminations. It's going to be a great reunion. Now, I don't know whether I told you all this story, but I was at the National Association of Christian Lawmakers meeting, and a woman got up whose father had just recently passed away, been a big supporter of the organization. I'm on the advisory board. The founder is Jason Rapert. He's the president and founder of the organization and former state senator from Arkansas. And she got up and she said, my father, when he was dying, was told by the doctors that he could go home. And we told him, well, Dad, you can come home, because they're thinking, you come home, we're going to believe God to do a miracle, et cetera, et cetera. And her father said, I'm not going home. And she said, she's a daddy's girl, and she was a little puzzled by that, because she was trying to figure out, well, what is he talking about? He's not going home. She said, no, Daddy. The hospital said, you can go home, and we're going to take you home. We're going to believe God for a miracle. He said, I'm not going home. And so she said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And he said, Jesus came to see me. He said, and Jesus took me to heaven and showed me what is awaiting me. He said, and he told me that he's going to let me come back and prepare you all for my departure, but that I'm not going home. I'm going to be with Jesus. He came and he told me it's time. And she said, of course, she didn't know how to react. And then he said this. He said, and there's only one thing about the experience I don't understand. He said, Jesus introduced me to a little girl, and he said, this is your granddaughter. And he said, but Jesus, I don't have any grandchildren. I don't have a granddaughter. And Jesus said to him, talk to your daughter when you get back. And when he told her that, she burst into tears, because she had had a miscarriage that she had kept secret for all that time. She and her husband had never told a soul, and had not told her father. And when he said, I met my granddaughter, she said, I know this is a supernatural thing that's happening. This is Jesus. Because my father could not have known that. And then she confessed to him that she had had a miscarriage, and they'd always wondered whether it was a girl or a boy, because the miscarriage had happened before they could have known that. She said, and now I know I've got a daughter waiting for me in heaven. So that's the upside. That's the inspiring side of this. I can't be at the March for Life this year, but I'll tell you what, I am with every person who is there in spirit. And God bless them for standing up for the lives of these unborn children. It just, again, never underestimate the deceptive power of the devil, who is able to convince people that killing their own progeny is doing something good, because it violates the natural instinct in all of us to defend our blood, to defend our children, to defend those who have come from our own bodies. There's a biological imperative. And the devil comes in and convinces people, no, you don't pay any attention to that. You just get rid of it. And people actually do this and rejoice and act like they've done something great, and that they ought to be commended for it. And they ought to celebrate it. They ought to have a party over it. But thank God for the pro-life warriors who've continued to take a stand. Now, I have a constitutional amendment I don't want to go over, folks, but I might. You can find it on my website, standamerica.us. Go to petitions, okay? You'll find that on the homepage. Go to petitions. Click on that. Sign the petition, I should say. And you'll see constitutional amendment petitions. You'll see a sanctity of human life petition. And here's the sanctity of human life amendment that you will find on our website. It's very simple. It says, for purposes of equal protection under this Constitution, the laws and applicable legal rights of citizens of the United States of America, human life and personhood shall be recognized from the moment of conception. Now, the key words there, human life and personhood shall be recognized from the moment of conception. I'm going to make some additional changes to this, but that phrase, that phraseology, that's the key. That's what it means to be a pro-life culture, where we recognize that life begins at conception and should have all the protections of personhood and citizenship at conception. So it becomes illegal to kill that unborn child. You can put it up for adoption, but you can't kill it. I believe that's where we need to go. I think we need to get off the stuff of when can it feel pain and when can it live outside the womb, and all of that plays into, in my view, the pro-death movement, because then what it's saying is, so any unborn baby you kill before that moment that you've designated as some sort of special watershed moment, that's kind of okay. But after they can feel pain, well, then you shouldn't kill them, because maybe that's when they become human. Or after they can live outside the womb, well, then that maybe you shouldn't kill them then. They shouldn't kill them at all, at any moment. And you got these Democrats who've decided that they want to be able to kill an unborn baby right up to the moment of delivery. In other words, if you really want to do it, when a woman is in labor, you can kill that unborn baby before it's delivered, and it's okay in their view. Well, see, in my view, that's murder. But in my view, it's murder from the very beginning, because that is a person. As I said, it boils down to this question: when did you become you? You were you at the moment of conception, because all of the genetic blueprint was there for who you would become. And we need to stop killing these unborn babies, period. So Vice President J.D. Vance is going to be at the March for Life. President Trump's going to send in a video. President Trump was the first president, the only president, to show up in person at the March for Life. God bless him for it. See, that's one of the reasons why I have such respect for President Trump. He's not perfect, I know that. But I mean, that man is right on so many levels. On so many levels. And we got to look. I think we've got to check him and be willing to disagree with him when we think he's wrong. But, well, I'll tell you what, he's right a whole lot more than he's wrong. No question about it. And this is where he is consummately right in saying that killing unborn babies is wrong. And we need to stop it. If we get this constitutional amendment in place, it would stop. It would be outlawed. Period. You couldn't do it anymore. And I hope that in the years to come after such an amendment would be passed, people would finally say, you know what? How was it that we killed these human beings and thought we were doing something? People thought they were doing something right. And people look back and say, yeah, I don't know how people got that deceived. But thank God we got delivered from that. The same way we would talk about slavery now. How is it so many people thought enslaving another human being was somehow okay? Somehow a good thing, a justifiable thing, an appropriate thing. Well, there were people who did believe that, but thank God we've been delivered from that now. A couple of other things I want to mention before I go. Boy, this is big news, too. The murder rate in America as a result of President Trump closing the border and his crackdown on crime, the murder rate has dropped to the lowest level since 1900. The lowest level since 1900. The murder rate now. I mean, the absolute numbers, because the population was much smaller in 1900. But the murder rate is the lowest since 1900. And 2025 showed the single largest drop in the murder rate in 1 year since we've been keeping records. See, this is what I mean about President Trump. I mean, yeah, you can argue about things that he does, and you can disagree with him on certain things. You can always find something to nitpick. But the things that this man is doing are extraordinary for the benefit of the American people, not himself. Look, of course, they tried to assassinate the man twice, but at least the president has got goo gobs of protection and security around him, but the American people don't. Getting these murderers, getting these thugs off the streets makes life better and safer and more secure for the average American. And that's what he's committed to doing. Last thing, we don't know the numbers yet, but a significant drop in overdoses since the border was closed. Well, of course, because the fentanyl can't get across the border. I can't wait to see the numbers in these reduced overdose statistics. But praise God, because every one of those, every drop in those statistics means more children saved to live their lives fully as opposed to being buried at an early age. So folks, it is the March for Life Day. We're celebrating life. God said, and we'll end with this, God said in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19, I set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that you and your seed may live, that you and your descendants may live. Choose life. America, choose life. Right now, we've got more abortions being committed in America today as a result of the use of these pills than we did before Roe v. Wade. We've got to choose life. See, that constitutional amendment would outlaw the so-called abortion pill. It would outlaw it. It would no longer be permissible. And that, in my view, is where we need to go if we're going to be a pro-life culture that pleases God and that removes the terrible harvest of death, which inevitably must come from sowing death. We start sowing life, and we'll reap a harvest of life because we're going to reap what we sow. All right, God bless everybody. Hey, look, stay safe through this storm because this thing is going to hit apparently most of the United States of America. So stay safe, stay indoors. If you have a power outage, be careful of how you try to provide heat to your home. Don't hurt yourself and your family trying to get heat in. Maybe find shelter somewhere. If you run out of power or if you have a power outage and the temperatures are low enough that it puts you and your family at risk, find some place to shelter. Go to a hotel if you can. Go to a shelter. I'm sure there'll be shelters set up. Should be shelters set up around your city, around your locality, where people can go and get warmed up and get something to eat. So, but take care of yourself. This thing's going to probably start, in our area, it's going to start on Saturday and run probably until Monday. For some of you, it's going to start on Friday, today, and go all the way to Monday. So you're looking at potentially, if you have a power outage of some kind tomorrow, you're looking at potentially going at least a day, 2 days. We had a big hurricane here at one point where there were some people who were out of power for about 2 weeks. But now, thank God, it was warm weather, so they weren't dealing with, freezing. But still, it was. I remember it very clearly. I happened to live in an area where I think we were out of power for like 8 hours, and the power was back on. But these folks lived in an area where power was out for 2 weeks. I don't know what happened there, but just do what you need to do to take care of yourself and your family, okay? And we'll be praying for you, praying for our country, praying for our fellow citizens, praying for everybody, for that matter, who resides here. We don't have people killed in a storm just because they're here illegally. That's another issue. Pray for everybody's safety through this storm, and for everybody to come out on the other side healthy and whole. And so God bless each and every one of you. Look, we have a great country, and I am grateful to God to be an American. I'm grateful to God to know that we can have a pro-life march, and even the President of the United States of America supports it. The Vice President is going to show up at it. Man, I'll tell you, in spite of what these leftists and these Democrats say, I just fall more in love with America every day because of its potential, because of the opportunities there are to see America become a more perfect union, and because of the great history that we have of human flourishing in this country and people being allowed to reach the fullest potential and fulfillment that hard work and gifts and talents can give them. So, folks, we're going to stand up for those unborn babies because we want all of them to be able to experience the blessing of living in the greatest nation on earth, the United States of America. So you know what you have to do. Stand up, step up, speak up, and refuse to back up. Because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit. Because we are on God's side. God bless everybody.